Moving on to the X braces. This one is going to be on the bottom. This one's going to be on the top. I put the X around there somewhere. I don't know exactly where yet, but we got to get this radiused before we start figuring that out. So just like we did with the back, I'm going to use this side since this side's a little rougher. Sort of getting there. All right, now that is in a good place to where we can just sand it. Though I got a couple of high spots as you can see here, so I'm just gonna hit that with a plane. And with these X braces, you really want to try to keep that brace vertical so that when we cross them and create that lap joint, that one of them isn't tipped one way or the other. So be careful when you're pressing down that we keep that nice and straight up and down. Just about there. Just see one spot that's not quite getting it right in here, and I can see it here too. Almost. Almost got it. These X braces are really, really important to get as clean of a surface for a glue as we can. So any high spots, low spots, ridges, rollovers, anything like that, we have to fix completely on these X braces because this is a critical brace. Really, the entire structure of the top depends on the X brace. So this has to be super clean. I'm just going to mark all the way across. And sorry if you can hear that background noise, but there's other stuff going on in the shop too. And I can't get around it today. Okay, pencil marks. And again, I'm holding these in about a third of the way on each side, trying to distribute the pressure so that I don't have any spots that I'm kind of pre-stressing and pushing in. I definitely don't want that. Everything's good except just a little bit right there, almost there. With these longer braces, it definitely takes longer, and it's a little more difficult to get the entire surface. So those pencil marks, to make sure, are good. And yeah, I see one shiny spot right here I want to make sure I get rid of. And when I say shiny, I mean because of the surface that the plane had left before. All right, all good. Perfect. Brace number 1 done. Yeah, this is going to be my bottom. And the best way to get this radius taper is to, hit the outside a little bit and work your way back. So that curve definitely gets more aggressive on the outside. I can see visually where I am at, where I am contacting about here to here, and then it starts to raise up and I get a space, and then same on the other side. If you want to, just scrub it a little bit on the sandpaper. You can see where you're touching here and here, and turn it over and hit those spots with the plane. Same thing. Looking pretty good. Only a couple spots that are really showing up as blank. I can see it here and here. And it appears to be pretty clean. So I'm going to hit my pencil marks again. Okay. I am going to call that good. Done. All right, I am moving over to the Go Bar deck. Now I am lucky enough to have two sets of dishes. I have a sanding dish, and then I have just it's not flat, but it's a smooth radiused dish. So that's what I use in my Go Bar deck. If you don't have that, you can just use your sanding dish with just something over the surface, a very thin pad, or even a paper for that matter will work. Just we want to keep that top from getting scratched or dinged. So something in between your top and a sanding surface is ideal. Now we get to lay out the X-brace. First one, radius, there we go. It's going to go here. If you've used that template that I have from LMI, all these circles, well, all we want to do is get our brace in the center of that circle so you can see an equal amount coming out of each side. Give myself a little bit of overhang here, and this is quite a bit of excess, so I can cut that off. As a matter of fact, I will just mark that now. A little bit's okay, a lot's not great. Where this one will cross over. Trying to line that up on my other braces. That's about it. I'm going to mark this here on both sides. And for right now, I'm going to give myself a couple of marks to reference later. All right, now I have my angle correct on here, so I need to take this one and cut down about halfway. This is 14 millimeters. So I want to cut this down about 7 millimeters. Measure out 7 millimeters, make that mark, and visually that looks like about halfway. So I think that seems to be accurate. Now, I really want to be careful with these angles and cutting these in. You can use just about any saw you have. For me, this really, really ultra thin X-Acto blade is what I typically use. And I line it up on that line, and then I go inside of the line. If I need to, I'll work my way out with either another cut with this or with a file, because I want the most accurate joint that I can get. I really don't want this to be sloppy. If it is, we can fix it, but as a rule, you want this to be one of the most accurate joints on your guitar besides the neck. Keep that same angle. Inside of the line. All right, this one is cut. This one, again, going inside of my mark, making as vertical cut as I can, keeping that same angle. Okay, so that is my cut. For this part, I always use a scrap of wood. I don't want to ding my bench or my dishes. What I want to do is find my mark here and take a chisel that is narrower or right at that same width. Just give yourself a little bit of a score. Both sides are scored. That looks good. And pop it right out. Clean cuts on both sides. Looks good. And it's not quite wide enough, which is good. I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to creep up to it. So I'm in good shape there. The way that I can creep up to that is use a file. That's one way. The other way is to use the saw again, or I can take a chisel and chisel it down. I like the file. It just seems to work a little bit better, a little more accurate, and it's slower, which I want in this joint. I want to be able to creep up to that slowly. And this has a smooth side and a file side. The smooth side, or the safe side, I want to put down into that joint so I don't file that any deeper. See how we look. Not quite. A little bit further. And you do want to support this well, very close to where your file is, so that you're not pulling on it one way or the other and changing your angle or putting stress on this and potentially cracking it. Okay, I am at the point where I can just get that inside there. It's a little bit tight once I get in, so I'm thinking that the walls need to get straightened out just a little bit. Now I'll turn this over and square up the bottom of that joint very carefully. That is super tight all the way to the bottom. If you can see that. I have to press that in there pretty good. Exactly what I want. Put this back on the top. Always brush your surface off when we're dealing with the top. That's where I want to be. Now what I'm going to do is mark the bottom. Here, 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 here. And then I'm going to turn it over and connect these lines to get my angle. And I'll turn this over and just try and line that up and make sure that looks right. Yep. Move my top out of the way so I don't ding it. that's right down to the 7. Just a little mark. I'm going to break those fibers with a score. Same on the other side. That didn't take much at all. All right, there we go. Pretty close. Looks like I've got to go a little bit deeper on one of them to get me to where I need to be. Okay, there we go. Now let's take a look on the top itself. Okay, yeah, solid. All right, that is perfectly flat here. We're good on the back side. I like it. I want to put a note on here, an arrow up, right, up, left. When you're taking these apart and separating them, it's super easy to get them mixed up and to put this one on that side and that one on that side. It's surprisingly easy despite having carved out an up and a down. It's very easy to get them switched. So just to avoid that trouble altogether, give yourself a note. And I am going to trim off these ends real quick. There are a couple of ways you can glue up the X braces. One way is to glue one X brace on the top and then get that set up. Take the other one, glue that one, this X brace on the top, and glue them into place immediately. You can also glue them up separately. So I could glue them up here, let that glue set, and then put it on the top. But for the sake of time, it will be actually much easier to get this glued up into place on the top, and then we have one glue time versus two. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Now I do want to get these pencil marks that I have on there cleaned up a little bit, but I want to do it without changing the width, because that'll mess up the joint. But if you leave them on there, they will give you kind of a false shadow and make it look like a gap or like you've just done a bad job in your joint. Okay, that side's fine. Fine, fine. All right, we're good. So let's take it to the go bar deck and glue it up. Now the bottom one is going to go on first, obviously. And I've got it labeled up to the right. I'm going to glue this up. Let's get that glue on there. Now, it does not need that much glue. Spread that out. And there's a couple spots where even that little bit is too much. Just drag my finger across the edge to get a little bit extra off. All right. Now you want to try and drop this as directly onto your marks as possible so that we're not dragging it all over the place. I'll put a couple of go bars in here. I'll leave that in place while I put some glue on the other one. I want to make sure that this lap joint has glue in it. Both sides. We're going to duplicate that here. I'm going to get some on the bottom, on the sides, drag that out. If you see any specks or goopies or anything like that, or if you feel the glue dragging it, go ahead and wipe that off, because we don't want anything in that glue joint that's going to interfere with our adhesion. All right, that's looking pretty good. I like that. Great. Okay, that hit my marks beautifully. Double check, everything else looks good. I haven't skated out of place up there. That looks good here. We'll leave this for maybe 10 minutes or so, and then I'll come back and do some squeeze out scraping, and then we'll be good. I'm going to come back in and get this little bit of squeeze out. And you may need to rotate your go bars around to get access to that. Just the tiniest bit of squeeze out here, that's good. All right, it's been about 30 minutes now after I cleaned up all the squeeze out. Things are looking good. Let's take this out. Perfect. All right. Now we move on to the tone bars. And we'll get to those in the next video. We'll see you then.